Today's themes are casino lives. We're living casino lives. And if there was peace, the casino life relates to the fact that we're always having to calculate about money. And whatever we're doing, we're somewhat caught up in throwing the dice. Whether it's a mortgage on the house, or if you should save money or spend it, or if you, for the middle class, upper classes, they've got stocks and shares, they've got investments. And we're forever calculating what's the safest way to have money. I'm sure it's the old-fashioned way of silver and gold. Well, that's not happening these days. And there's a lot of volatility as well. So the people that profit are the people who have some kind of inside information. But even then, the game is rigged. Even with the inside info, the bubble bursts and everybody loses everything periodically. Of course, the ones at the top never lose. They print the money. But having some inside info or a hunch, or, well, not so much a hunch, but inside info, it means you've got some secret about some money profiteering. And life is holistic. If you've got one secret, you become kind of secretive about everything. And that's what we have in a lot of city life. Thousands and thousands of people living together next to each other, and they never talk to each other. They're all caught up in their secrets. You keep a secret about one thing, and it makes you secretive in general. You have to hide your feelings and emotions. You have to restrain yourself and not let the child out in order to make a profit. Well, we're all beholden to this money world. None of us have escaped it. But it's man-made and man-orchestrated. It's Talmudic by its very nature. And we're having to live it, and we're throwing the dice constantly, and we're imagining that we've got freedom of thought and calculations based on intellect and rational thought, and it's not the case, really, because, as I've mentioned, the system is rigged. The bubble bursts and you lose everything periodically. It didn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to stay this way. But this is where we're at and what has been created for us to live through. We have this odd thing called taxes, which everything is all the onus is put on the taxes. Our taxes pay for this, and it's really just a control mechanism to keep us in line. And the bulk of the income, if we're looking at the wealth of the West, Europe and America, it's what they call invisible earnings. It's through investments, insurance, it's through fraud and scams. It's nothing to do with productivity, and it's nothing to do with the workforce in Europe and America. The people that are controlling things are the speculators. And they talk about regulation, deregulation, but I mean, it's really gone to the extreme now. You're betting all the time. You're betting on futures. You're not actually creating or producing anything. This is the world we live in. But if you also consider the quantity of war, America's notorious. Every year of its life for the last 100 years it's been at war. It's always at wars. And it's millions of tons of ordnance, millions of tons of bombs being dropped around the world. And, the only way to cope with it is to desensitize yourself. I mean, you could become an activist, and great. But failing that, the only way to cope with the reality of bombing all these defenseless people is to desensitize oneself. Now, propaganda is a very strong tool. We've seen the Israelis jump up and down in excitement when they see Gaza being bombed from 30,000 feet. Well, the truth is, it's the same in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, everywhere else they're bombing in terms of the people being defenseless. But it's just the quantity of human energy that goes into it, and the fact that it warps who we are, and it warps our ability to relate to each other. All we can do is build up a wall around ourselves. That's what everything adds up to, whether it's the wars or the casino lifestyle. It's all about removing yourself from sharing your consciousness with others. And what's inculcated and encouraged in all of us is selfishness. And to some degree it's consumerism, but of course, again, the world is holistic, so it's not only about the objects one can buy. It's about one's attitude to life. And it doesn't surprise me that Islam becomes an enemy. And I'm not talking about a love of Arabs, a love of Muslims. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the religious beauty of following the religion. I'm talking about some common sense rules and regulations, which we seem to agree we need to live by. But they do cope with the financial issues. Gambling is illegal to start with. And oddly enough, insurance is illegal, and it means that everyone has to trust one another. We are guaranteed with immunity. We can gamble and have insurance. Such is the sacredness of material attachments under Talmudic rule. It is inevitable that we will have a nuclear accident. It's called the law of averages. It's called it can't be any other way. And if we don't have a nuclear accident, like a nuclear bomb goes off in Incirlik Air Base, for example, or another 3 Mile Island, if we don't have something of that scale, it's going to happen in a conventional warfare. A conventional weapon is going to hit a nuclear site, or a nuclear weapon, or a nuclear power station. It's inevitable. And it should just be enough to put us off. But you know, after something like 3 Mile Island, all our collective consciousness alters, and we suddenly say, oh, we don't want nuclear weapons anymore, and the whole world will go that way. But we seem to have to go through it first before we can see the light. It's commendable in Britain. There's been a strong anti-nuclear group of people, CND, for a long time, and they've always demonstrated against it. But it's sapping all our wealth. You know, the hospital care, the education, the social fabric, it's sapping us. The cost of the weaponry and of the endless wars, and there's no sign of it abating. And I blame the cabal. I blame the Chabad. It doesn't matter who you vote for, that's what you end up with. And Trump is the prime example. There could be a world with peace. There could be a world where we're not constantly at war with others. And for some unknown reason, all our wars are about picking on little tiny places that can't protect themselves. They're done with overwhelming force on those that cannot fight back. That's the nature of the wars in our lifespan. That's what England, America, Israel is doing. They're bombing defenseless people incessantly. So it's as if we've all been turned into pygmies. Our growth has been stunted. We could never reach fulfill our potential. We could never experience the world we live in. We could never share the living moments. We're all caught up in man-made conundrums, whether they're related to warfare or gambling. That's all is pushed upon us, and it's really enforced. And of course, what happens in your prime age, in your strength, is you go for escapism because you can't cope with reality. And so in comes the alcohol or the drugs, and you're just constantly trying to escape reality. And this goes on for decades in most people's lives. Finally, you get older and you say, no, I want to see the real world, and you can't cope with the after effects in the mind and the physical health. So they've just taken us all and put us in a blender and destroyed what we could have been. If you go to the third world, the undeveloped countries, the people have got more time for each other. There's more smiles apparent. There's less stress. There's less rushing around. It's a very big contrast. And a smile is a currency, and you can get smiled at many times a day for no reason whatsoever. If you've ever seen one of these ant colonies or beehives, they're all busy doing what they do collectively. But you should see what we're doing to the planet. We're extracting the resources everywhere and processing them and developing them. And it's unsustainable, and we know that. I'm not saying anything we don't know. But it's extraordinary that we're full steam ahead. And I have to bring it down to the mundane and point out that Trump is basically killing all the environmental laws and rules. And, you know, I'm not into laws and rules and regulations, but it shows where he's at. It shows the contempt he has for life. And it's not him, it's Kushner. I finished today. I appeal to you for donations in every video. I have no other way to survive. Please send anything along to any of these links in the description below the video. It costs money to make the films as well, to make the videos. The equipment needs repairing, etc. So if you could help, please send something along. And thanks for listening.